Okay.
Nice one. So, boys, let's just do intros. So I'm Era. I'm sure I don't know how many of you follow me anyway, but I'm Era. Spurs fan from Tottenham, local. Who wants to go next? I think we've got Hi there, Tyler.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tyler, lifelong suffering Spurs fan. Again, local from Enfield, so happy to be here, man.
Ohio.
Yeah, man. Also, long suffering Tottenham fan since we had flipping Sol Campbell in them. Also from Enfield as well.
Nice. Owen.
Yo, how's it going? Lifelong Tottenham fan also, and from a little ways outside London in a little town called Crawley, which is essentially a wannabe Croydon.
Nice. Like another country nearly, innit, Croydon? Si?
Yeah, same. Lifelong Spurs fan. Come from a family of Spurs. Other side is the other lot down the road. I'm based in East London.
Nice. And Tops.
Yeah, man. Lifelong Spurs fan. Born in Hackney. Pretty much followed them my whole life. So got a lot of things I want to get off my chest. So.
Before we go though, I gotta ask: did any of you just choose Spurs, or is everybody like following Spurs? Their family follows Spurs. You just kind of picked.
My dad's a Chelsea fan, innit?
Chelsea fan.
Yeah, but I used to, and he's black, so I don't know what I was doing that for. But I think when I was younger, I used to kick ball at them. Like I can't kick ball now, and this is probably why. But I used to go to them. You know them community football things that they used to do over the Easter. I just went to bear of them. And then I met Teddy Sheringham and Chris Perry and them, man. And I was like, yeah, this is all right still.
Okay,
not realizing what I'd let myself in for.
So wait, is there anybody that rates Spurs right now though? I have to get it out from the beginning. Like, what's going on? Does everybody feel disappointed or?
No, it's 50. I'd say it's 50-50. Like there's lots of aspects about the team and the club to be positive, but there's also a lot of aspects that I just think just need changing from the bottom up. But like at the moment, we can't really complain. Like we've improved way more than we like have started, because the season, to be honest with you, just was going in from decline. To be honest, ever since ever since June 1st last year, it's just been
ever since. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'll be frank with you. Yeah.
Which reminds me, like life after Poch. What we think. How's it been so far?
Yeah, to be fair, I'm taking it in stride. I feel like every era of any successful sporting team goes through that lull period where you try and figure out what your identity is again, and try and build on that. And I think we're firmly in that position. I think it's no coincidence that all of this stuff happened around the stadium and Pochettino and like that era of ascension that we had. So I think we're just trying to figure out how to put the pieces back together.
Nice. I think personally, I think we're doing okay without Poch. I think it was a shaky start. But I mean, sometimes I think of it like Spurs full squad, or Pochettino's best Spurs squad against Mourinho's like best Spurs squad. What do you guys think would happen? He would take it quick, friendly.
But Poch is like prime squad.
Yeah, Poch is prime squad. Like, there's not many differences, I wouldn't say.
I mean, the main difference, you'd have the fullbacks and the Dembele, Wanyama punch.
And probably like I think Berwin would make Mourinho's best team, probably not Poch's.
I think it's a tough one for me because Mourinho, by my estimation, hasn't been the same guy as Real. So like when you line up against a Mourinho team now, you sort of know what you're going to expect. You know what to expect. He's going to have attacking players who get to do their thing, but the rest of the 5 or 6 men in the team are just going to sit. So from our best Poch teams, we sometimes struggled with that. But then we also had success against that too. So it'll be one of them 50-50 ones. Unless it's a cup final or any important cup game, then Mourinho takes it.
I mean, Poch had a horrible away against the top 6 record, and I think Jose would trump him on that.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we set up against Man United and when we set up against Liverpool, the 2-1 loss, was it 2-0 loss?
Mm-hmm.
And Lo Celso missed a sitter at the end. You're thinking, like, we're more clinical in front of goal. We're taking maximum points from all of those games.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, like in terms of being clinical in goal, like who do you think's lacking?
Well,
Is it Star-Man or
like,
is it more?
I think Sonny, man.
I don't know.
Sonny's not been impressing me since the break.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why though. Like, to be honest with you, I think the front three, like, I think without doubt, Kane and Son are shooters. Them man are like, you know, when they get the opportunity, 9 times out of 10, they're scoring. But I also kind of think, depending on who's in the team, it kind of has an effect on like the way they play. So, like for instance, I like Moura, but I also feel like Moura, the way he likes to play, he likes to always move central. So you often find that on his wing, there's pretty much nothing going on that side. And he often will take up spaces that I think Kane will probably be in. And actually, you kind of want him stretching the play, maybe getting in behind, using the wing. And then often, I said it in the Discord group, like, it's weird. The 3 of them are very good, but in a weird way, they're all very greedy as well. So sometimes there are times when you would think, pass this ball, man. And they take the shot or they try to take another man on and they ended up probably like ruining the chance completely. Whereas, which is funny, because when they played West Ham in Mourinho's first game, they were all passing it in between each other. And 2 of the goals actually came from them actually giving the ball to each other, which is strange, like.
You know what's weird? Like I always think back to that match. Like Mourinho, he started so well. I think we had Ben Davis on the pitch as well, and we were playing like a back 3.
Yeah.
And we were we were playing a back 3, and I think everything was going well. And then Ben Davis got injured in that match, I think. And then we changed to a back 4, and I think we conceded 2, like in the last 10 minutes, and it was like it ended 3-2. And I think that game is literally like a metaphor for how Mourinho's been so far. Literally, that's how it's
true.
It seems like he's got one plan, and sometimes it starts well, and then when things don't go his way, it's really shaky. So, like, I don't know. I think what I want to know from you guys at the moment is like, where do you think it's going wrong for Mourinho so far, in terms of like, more specifically, I know he's got this reputation and everybody thinks that he's in decline, but specifically, where do you think it's going wrong for Mourinho?
I think a lot of the fans' concerns are with Mourinho that, like, Pochettino had his whole set system, how he wanted the team to play literally for 90% of games. It really wouldn't change that much. Whereas Mourinho has these very basic foundations he's got for us, where Ben Davis will tuck in, Aurier will stay forward. He doesn't want both the fullbacks going at the same time, and he wants us to be like the defensive line, and a lot of things will change on like a game by game basis, and a lot of people will see it as quite negative, because obviously he doesn't really like to play proactive football. He's more just reactive to what each team's going to do.
You think that's a chosen tactic, or is that because of personnel though? Because Ben Davis isn't the quickest going forward. We don't have the right midfield balance to help defensively.
You definitely don't want Aurier defending as well, if you can avoid it.
No.
Yeah.
You know what?
I really like Aurier.
Definitely.
Because I hate to say it, like, there was a lot of times, even at the start of this season, where I was just like, I'm completely done with Aurier. I can't really trust how he is defensively, but at the same time, he's been our main creative outlet. So, and he's probably been top 3 best players for us this season as well.
And that's I think for me, like on balance in Mourinho's defense, I don't think he gets enough credit for things like that, because I guess like he kind of like he's stuck Sissoko sort of like on that side of the midfield, and it's like you're protecting Aurier basically. And we know Sissoko doesn't really want the ball, and Aurier does want the ball, and he wants to go forward, which is like, it works. And you would think like somebody like Poch would have seen that, earlier and made that adjustment. I think that's one thing I didn't like about Pochettino. He didn't seem to make the adjustments fast enough. Like he had a lot of faith in his tactics, which don't get me wrong, they were great and they did a lot of stuff for us. But I just feel like he didn't make that change when it was necessary sometimes.
Yeah, there was a time there he was just stubborn and he wanted to kind of push on with this diamond shape which we had, which on paper suited the players we signed in the summer, where we signed Lo Celso and Ndombele. And he was persisting with playing Ericsson still as well, for whatever reason. They wanted to make that all work and just kept with the diamond, even though we just constantly kept on getting exposed, especially on the flanks. I mean, you could probably reference the Bayern Munich game as like the main.
Let's not.
That match.
The main one.
Don't want to speak on that, man.
Let's not
speak on that,
refer
man.
to that match.
To touch on
Who thought Spurs played well in that match?
First half, like if I'm honest with you, first half.
First
I
half,
thought
was
they
all
played
over
very
it.
well. Like arguably, like some of the players, like Ndombele, I thought was very good in that first half. Son, very good in that first half. And actually, we probably could have scored even more than just the one.
Yeah,
but it was weird. Second half came, and then all of a sudden, a couple mistakes, and then
they were just stupid clinical, and obviously Gnabry knew what time it was, man. He's Arsenal through and through. There was no way he would have that night.
I think to touch on that point where it's going wrong for Mourinho, I think the damage has been done to the squad from playing that diamond, because you've got guys who were basically just playing roles that weren't necessarily suited.
True. Yeah, that's true.
And they put so much time and energy into, like, let's take Ali for example.
Yeah.
Ali naturally is probably the closest thing we'll get to Thomas Muller, as we touched on in the Discord. And one of his best attributes is attacking spaces. So if you've got two men in front of him who are occupying central positions, where's he going to run into? He's not going to drift out wide because obviously you've got no natural width anyway, so he's not going to get the ball. So then he gets hamstrung in this do I move, don't I move situation. And then you've got guys like Mora who just, once the ball touches his feet, his inclination is to try and weave through four guys. When realistically in those sort of systems, you need to have quick, decisive movements in order to move forward. Now with Mourinho's team, there's not really any person in the team who can consistently progress the ball, and there's no real outlet to get it into feet to link up play. Precisely that. So then we get into that situation where when, if I use the Manchester United game as an example, the game was calling out for just a little bit of quality in midfield to combat all the good things they were doing, and instead he put his pride as the main reasoning tool, and he just threw on Lo Celso and flipping Fernandes, who has no place in the team, especially after that penalty.
I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, you know, that United game was a funny one because, like I've said, and I was actually quite negative about that game in the sense that I just believe that we have too many good attacking players who are being asked to do lots of defensive work. But actually, in hindsight, I think we actually need to sort our defensive work anyway, because, you know, we're not a very good team at stopping teams from scoring. We often allow lots of chances onto us. And I do believe having a defensive structure, even the way we've started it with the two centre halves that have been kind of not in the team, but they've actually started this since this restart, and they've actually been positive, apart from the mistake that Dyer, you know, made for the penalty. But generally, it's actually been better. And I suppose maybe he might be looking at it as, okay, let me try and not concede, let me not try and lose games, and then we can work on the attacking stuff, because I suppose we have the players that can do that. We have the Lo Celsos, we have the Alis, we have the Sons, we have Kane, players who actually are good enough to be able to do all the attacking stuff. But I think it's been a long slide, and it's been a long time now. We've been seeing this where there was a point where when we were with Posh, where we were rock solid defensively. We never used to concede chances. We never used to concede goals. And now you're looking at every game and thinking, when are we going to concede? Like, which individual error is going to be made? who's going to do something stupid for them to score, you know?
But what do you think that is, though? Is that just Mourinho's lack of versatility, or is it more on the players? Like, where is the blame?
No, I wouldn't say it's. You know what? I wouldn't say it's Mourinho. Like, I think on one hand, I think Mourinho, his mentality into in the way that he manages and the way that he sees football, it hasn't really changed. But I also see like him doing that is a good place to start. It's better than doing something that's completely away from what he's always done. You know, like for everyone knows that historically he's always been very, very defensive. His teams have always been very compact, very difficult to break down. And then he's also been able to have good attacking players to be able to score goals when he was at Inter, when he was at Porto, when he was at Chelsea initially. But then the worrying thing is that football has moved on. And actually, you can't really play in that way anymore. Like, you have to go and get the game as opposed to let the game come onto you and react. So you look at teams like Liverpool and look at teams like City, you know, whether you like to believe it or not, they are going at teams and they're not even allowing teams to even get to the point where they can sit and defend and put five behind the ball because they're moving the ball so quickly and they're pressing them so high. But then it's difficult because I'm also looking at Spurs and thinking, that's all well and good, but why are we playing five defenders against like Norwich at home? Why?
Yeah, I think that's sort of like what I'm trying to get at with the whole lack of versatility thing. So like even sometimes like the starting lineup, like the people he has on the bench, like even, I think in the Man United game he had like Ali and who else did he have on the bench? I think he had Lo Celso on the bench as well. And it's like he's saying that those are not the right options. Like he wants people to defend the 1-0 rather than chase the game. If you get what I mean. And it just makes me feel like, yeah, he's sort of dedicated to building this defensive side or this defensive philosophy that he's got. And when you sort of match that or add that in with his disdain for some of like, let's say some of the better talents in football, i.e. like Pogba, more recently Ndombele, and then he's got this sort of like dedicated loyalty to some other players like Zlatan or I don't know, like feel free to throw some names, but like you I'm sure you guys know what I mean. Like I think is that a sign? Is that like a warning of things to come?
I think it definitely is because, you know, like you just said, even referring back to Zlatan and people he stuck, I think he's very used to players sticking, like listening to him 100% because of what he'd won in the past. So, you know, this is the guy who made Samuel Eto'o play the defensive winger, and Samuel Eto'o loved it apparently. Do you know what I'm saying? He's used to a certain caliber of player listening to him. Or, you know, Mikel came to the Prem, or signed for United first, arguably as like an attacking mid, and he was happy to sit. And, you know, SCN was a bit more in the attack in terms of a box-to-box, but he was happier to pick up more of the defensive side. So, you know, when you have... I'm not surprised for that the likes of Ndombele are being treated the way they are. And it's just very frustrating because it was literally the first thing me personally I said was that he was going to fall out with Ndom because it's literally a carbon copy of what happened to Pogba. So, I don't know, like, how long is his contract? It's a 3-year contract, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Is there anyone?
Is he?
You guys actually?
Sorry,
going to actually go?
Ndombele,
yeah. Or do you think it will be like a carbon copy of the Pogba situation where he's like on the outskirts of the team for a long time, and then
it's going to be a carbon copy at this rate? Something drastic has to change in terms of the timing of Ndombele getting on the pitch and doing something wonderful has to be pretty much instant. Otherwise, I think it will continue for as long as Mourinho's there.
It's going to be interesting though, because in like the next week, don't we have a lot of games? So we've just had a long break.
Yeah, we do.
Now. We've got like 3 games in a week. So Ndombele has to play his part. Mourinho doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Listen, I would bet maybe I'm kind of broke now, but I bet maybe £20 that Ndombele doesn't play. At best, he might play. So we got Sheffield United away, Everton at home. We got Arsenal in like what, 2 weeks? Like
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can probably only see Ndom coming off the bench at home to Everton if we're comfy at best.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, like, when I think about that though, like I look at the teams we've got left. We've literally like the teams that we're playing. There's no difficult games really. Like if we're really being honest, the United game was probably the big. And okay, let's say Arsenal is like just a derby, right? But the rest of them, they're not like games that we should be thinking, oh, it's going to be a team that is better than us. I look at these fixtures and think, no, there's no games that we should be thinking, oh, we're definitely going to get beat. So these are opportunities to be able to just get him playing. Like, if anything, just to build his confidence. Like, because, like, I don't want us to be this team who spent the most amount of money on, like, quite arguably one of the most, prospective under 23s in Europe, and then we ended up shafting him, and he basically leaves after a year or two. Like, I'm sure his contract is like 4 years or 5 years anyway. So, and he didn't really have a full season if we're really talking about it, because he had injuries and really was in and out of the team throughout the season. Like, I would think this would have been the best opportunity to just try get him playing, get him used to playing English football, because I know we speak about French league being a farmers league and all that, but he was playing at quite a high level in France. And not only was he playing at quite a high level in France, but he was also playing quite a high level whenever Lyon played in the Champions League, which everyone was able to see. So it's not as if it's not as if he's a bad player. Like, I actually think he's a very good player. If anything, he's probably one of the better, like, talented players at Tottenham now. But we just need to find a way of picking him in the team where it's not a detriment to the whole team,
Yeah, it's frustrating as well, because I think everyone can tell how high his ceiling is, and you like to think as well, like, he wouldn't just kind of go on these little workouts with him during lockdown in the public eye if he wasn't keen on trying to develop him. That's wishful thinking for me.
That bit worries me a bit. I can't lie. I think Mourinho's a master of creating this facade.
Yeah, that's it. He is, isn't it? It's true. It's true.
Like,
it's similar to special. To Pep, sorry, but it's just it's the opposite. Like, Pep, I guess Pep always, whenever he sees a camera, he like grabs somebody and starts giving an Oxford lecture and everything. And then you've got I guess Klopp. He sees a camera and he does that thing where he's like, oh, I can't do anything now. Like, I've got to walk with my head down. Like, and then you've got Mourinho, like you were just saying just now, where he does this thing, like, he creates a spectacle around everything. Like, even the other day with Harry Kane, when people were saying maybe Harry Kane should be scoring a bit more, and he started doing his just reading off like Opta stats, like getting them all wrong as well. But it's legendary. It's legendary. Like, that's what he's known for. I guess I'm looking at transfer market right now, and we've got Ndombele, I guess, for another 5 years. Sitting here, we've got him for 2025. Yeah.
Crazy.
So I can't see Mourinho lasting that long. I'll be honest with you. Like, even if he was amazing, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that he does a lot. Stay at a club for 5 years, 5+ years. So it's like, I don't know. Is Ndombele going to be one for the future? It seems like, and it feels like we've got a lot of players like that at the moment. So we've got Harry Kane as well. Where do you guys think Harry Kane's future is?
I think if Kane decides to go, I don't think any of us can complain. Like, he's tried, he's done his bit. You know what I'm saying? He keeps coming back, in my opinion, too early from these injuries. But Tim Sherwood, I wasn't too fond of Tim Sherwood's time, but we have to give Tim Sherwood his dues for trusting, man. Yeah. But then it was either him or Soldado, so fair enough. Kane has done all he can for us. You know what I mean? If he wanted to bounce, or he wanted to turn around and say, "Oh, look, I'm not content with being the big dog on campus. Like, I wanna retire with some medals." None of us can really say anything. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that will be the fault of ENIC and the board, just in terms of not investing when Poch. When we know them times when Poch first said the rebuild has to start now, but we were still looking good. When Poch, when you play Football Manager, yeah, and you keep winning the league, and then it's like, oh, you know what? I've done back-to-back. I need to freshen up the squad a little bit. I don't need anybody, but it's getting a bit stale. Poch was right. And if we'd done that, I think Kane would potentially have at least, I'm not saying we would have 100% won the league, but we'd have won something at the very least. So that kind of conversation Kane's having in his head wouldn't be as loud as it probably is. Like, just to reiterate, if he wants to bounce after this season, or if he wants one more big contract, then I think we'd have to just accept it. Do you know what I mean?
The thing is, if you clocked as well, Kane is coming out more regularly with these trophy talk. He keeps coming out.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
trophies in
yeah.
my career? Blah, blah, blah. And it's worrying time for our Spurs fans. We're not used to trophies around here.
Yeah, but it's true though. Like he's 26, and like he's at this point. Especially when you're young, you can have these injuries and get through them. But the minute you start getting them, as you get a bit older, then it actually it takes more of a toll on you. Like, and I'm thinking now, he's thinking, we've lost Pochettino. Like, doesn't seem that we're going to be getting any massive amount of input into the squad, and we're not playing that well. Like, things are a bit negative, from what people are saying. Like, how can I get the best out of the situation when I've just signed like a 4 or 5 year deal? Like, he has to think of himself. He's like any normal person, isn't he? Like,
you'd think he sort of like saw Mourinho come in and thought, yeah, this is a guy who's about his trophies, like he's a serial winner. You'd think that he would have thought the season would have went a bit different. I would think. That's in Mourinho's comeback. I reckon next
maybe
season
one more season. I think literally next season, if he doesn't really feel inspired after the next season, I 100% think we need to start accepting that he's going to be going off to win trophies with another team. And honestly, like everyone else has said, you can't blame him.
Yeah, I think I look at it both ways. I guess this season was always going to be a bit of a write-off once Poch left, and I think on what we spoke about before about Mourinho's style of play and things that might concern us, it doesn't really concern me too tough that he's trying to build from a solid defense first. Poch did the same thing. AVB tried, failed miserably at it. But it's like, defense is the foundation of the game. So I think Kane will probably be looking at things and being like, all right, cool. Let's get a few of the fundamentals in, and maybe next season we'll see what we do. But as you guys said, I won't begrudge him a move. Ultimately, anywhere he's going to go is going to be somewhere that's already winning. So it's no slight on us for a player to leave to a team that's already getting medals. Like, all of the players that we've... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I we're talking about sort of Harry Kane leaving, and I mean, if Harry Kane leaves, should I say, potentially. And I guess what worries me the most about that is I don't trust Spurs in the transfer market. Mm-hmm. I look at the way we spend money, and it scares me.
Oh, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, seriously, to think that the last person who would still be at the club out of the money that we spent on Bale would be Lamela. You told me that a couple of years ago.
That's
I was
crazy.
Lamela. I've seen Lamela. Honestly, I've seen Lamela kick off games and just run and just elbow people and get a yellow card. He's about his life. He's in the wrong sport. He should be in UFC, man. And you know what?
I'm not gonna lie, man. I've got a soft spot for him, man.
It's
like a car crash. A beautiful car crash.
He's the only person that's happy to just leave his foot in, put a little nudge, put a little elbow. You know what I mean? Leave a little late tackle. And I suppose I suppose we need something like that as well. I suppose when Dyer was in midfield as well, he kind of was like that as well. But I don't know. I think his output just is so dead that I'm actually over him. He needs to I don't want to force him out, but I feel like if the right amount came for him.
Wait, who's that, Dyer or Lamela?
No, Lamela.
That's worrying.
No, Lamela, because even Dyer, man, he obviously came from Portugal, started in midfield, and I thought the system that he played in with Poch worked for him, but I think as the seasons went on, I think it also kind of exposed parts of his game that maybe wasn't always you didn't really see before. So I think him going back into defense now, which I think is what he naturally wants to play, he's 26, so it's not as if he's lost any bit of pace. He's fairly good technically, and obviously he's very good physically as well. So I think personally this is a good move for him. And I hope it continues, because the first two games, I know we haven't lost and we only conceded one through a penalty, but he's probably been one of the better players, one of the positives I'd say that's come out of the last.
I think what we're noticing as well with guys like Dyer, they're starting to unlearn a lot of the stuff that Poch taught them.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah, man.
So Dyer is probably the best example of that. Dyer was playing in a back three in our best season, and we were pressing high up the pitch, and we had Ali on the left. So we had all of these cogs moving, and we had a real cohesive sort of organically based system where every part depended on each other. Whereas now they're learning how to be proficient individuals, and that's what we're witnessing. If the ball comes to your feet, you need to be economic with it. You need to get it to the area where we're going to be effective. Otherwise, you might not get another chance to do it. And I don't think any of the players are really used to that yet.
So in terms of, let's say, our best back four, what are we looking at?
The one that's been started.
Basically, the one that's been starting, yeah.
The Veros on the bench.
On the bench, riding the
Well, in
bench.
hindsight, that deal we offered Alderweireld is looking very silly.
How many years was that deal?
It was 2.
2 years?
Double check. For sure.
Yeah, big wage rise as well.
Yeah, man.
So are
It covers
all
our bases,
agreeing-
isn't it?
we all agreeing Aurier starts?
Well, who else we got? Man?
Yeah, we got choice. Yeah, we got choice, man.
Let's be honest, man.
All right, so maybe something that could actually change. What about Danny Rose to Newcastle being permanent? Is that a good thing for the club?
I think, me personally, even I know when Danny Rose came out and was saying we need to stop signing players, that we have to Google and shit. The essence of what he said, I was obviously pissed.
Yeah.
What I do like about Danny Rose as an individual, he's not to sound cliche, but he is quite real. Like I do wish more footballers just came out and spoke their mind the way he does. Maybe to a slightly lesser degree if it's costing your own team. But he was very open on the fact. He was like, "Look, like I don't fancy it here. I want to go back up north." Like, man, where's he from again? He's somewhere up north, isn't he?
Leeds, Yorkshire.
He was very honest and wanting to go back up north. And it's like, if you want, I don't think it would do us any favors him staying. So I don't have a clue what he's like behind the scenes, but if he's like this on camera, I can only imagine he's very open. He could be very open in the dressing room about not really wanting to be about it. It's not like, remember when Asua Koto said that he doesn't play football because he enjoys it. He plays it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's like that. I think if we had, not saying I want someone of that level, but if Asua Koto was still around and he maybe had said he wanted to go, I think he'd still just crack on and get on with it because it's a job to him. Whereas Danny Rose, I think it would just feed into his psyche just gradually that he just wouldn't want to play. So if Newcastle can stump up some peas, then they can just take him. Like,
no, seriously, you just brought up some old school pain for me. Asua Koto. Oh my days, bro! I nearly forgot. I nearly forgot. Oh no, that guy used to stress me out. Bro, one time I watched the interview with Asua Koto and they was like, "How are you preparing for the next game?" He's like, he didn't know who he's playing, bro. I was thinking, oh my days. This guy, he was stealing a living. He had that little inside pass to the centre back. He stole a living off that.
I mean, let's be real though. That partnership with Bale on the left hand side was
lovely, mate.
Was perfectly executed, man.
Yeah, man.
And he's got that belter against Liverpool as well.
Trust me.
I love the celebration.
That broken clock, man. That broken clock's do right one twice a day and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, the rest of the season, like, what are we doing? Like, are we progressing from mid-table? I feel like we're the mid-table managers right now. Like, I don't know. But like, are we?
So I feel like we've actually progressed a little bit in our attacking sense since the lockdown. Only like through watching our games when Mourinho first took over, we kept on hitting these like long balls, especially down the flanks. We just hit these long balls forward aimlessly, just with the view of just pressing the team in their half. But it wasn't actually meant to be a pass. It was kind of like rugby tactics. No offense to Hire, but it was literally like that. It was just these aimless balls. I was like, what are we doing? Like, there was no one 10 yards within that half.
A whole team of Bruno Fernandes.
We don't actually seem to be doing that anymore. And he has alluded to, he's talked about like working on our attacking shape in the press as well as other things as well. And I think now he has obviously got all of our players fit, especially the attacking ones. We are gradually progressing.
I think
I agree.
In terms of like fixtures and positioning and that, So I just had a look at ours. Interestingly, I've actually had a look at Arsenal's because we're what, 7th now, yeah? And then Arsenal they've got to go to Wolves. Leicester have got to come. Then they got us, Liverpool, who have won the league, to be fair. So they might play Curtis Jones and them lot. And then they've got to go to Villa, and City have still got to go. So it's like, without trying to think what Arsenal are going to do, generally speaking, and then looking at our fixtures, I mean, it's easy to compare fixtures and that. But I don't know, like, I feel we could definitely, I personally would take, I'm not a fan of Europa for obvious reasons, but that's supposed to be Mourinho's bag, innit? Do you know what I mean? I think if we do get Europa, and I don't trust Mourinho in the transfer market, but I have to accept the circumstances at hand. Do you know what I mean? So I think if we go Europa, we have to attack it to try and get in the Champions League, definitely. And I think
absolutely,
we can get that from 6th.
Could be a good opportunity to develop a couple players, and I'm not saying we'll field a week in the squad every game, but players like Sessegnon, who he doesn't seem to fancy that much, annoyingly. Yeah. Troy Parrott can get a few minutes in. And as for the transfer market as well, I hope we get back Luis Campos from Lille, because, like you said, I don't really trust him either. But if he's got a solid director of football behind him, then it's promising. It just doesn't look like he's got the money.
Bring in Campos, you mean?
Campos, yeah.
Yeah. I think
there's a player with a very similar name.
Before lockdown, I was sort of hoping that the season just ended so we would miss out on Europe altogether. But
honestly, that's so true. It's so true, though, isn't it? Because
no, sorry, go on.
So sometimes when I look at Europa, like I'm like in two minds. Sometimes I actually feel like it's more hassle than it's worth, because you end up, your team gets sent to the half end of Europe, and then they may or may not win, and then they have to come back and play Sunday, and then the whole cycle just continues. Or you could potentially have a season where you don't play it, and you're basically preparing every single week for every domestic game you're playing, and you actually can prepare properly without having too much pressure on your main squad. But then also you're looking at it like, well, all those years that we were in it, we never won it, and now you can win it and get to the Champions League. And then, like, the last few seasons, Arsenal got to the final, United won it, Chelsea won it. So there's no reason for us not to try and go for it properly. If we've been
our squad, we're good enough to win the Europa League, man.
Absolutely, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, I can't lie. If Celta Vigo and them are getting to semi-finals, come on, man. Like,
exactly,
I know it's tough times, but we have to rate ourselves a little bit. Like,
we got the Champions League final. Like, we shouldn't really be aiming for less than Europa League final, I think.
Like the year Mourinho won it with United, they were ass. So
you were taking a piss. For
me, though, the only thing with that is obviously, like, and this is wishful thinking. The last few times where, say, Chelsea haven't had Europe, they've been able to mount a title challenge. No,
absolutely, yeah, that's true.
So it's one of those things. It's like what is really going to change the trajectory of a club? Is it going to be Europa League to have the incentive of playing Champions League again? Or maybe potentially falling short of, say, winning the title, but going all the way in a domestic cup? I think it swings and roundabouts. The Europa League doesn't really have that luster that's going to change how we're perceived or what players we're going to keep. It's just a means to an end at the moment. And I mean, I never turn my nose up at a celebration, like a parade and all of that stuff. But at the same time, we're looking at like such a minute step up to basically just say, okay, cool, we've won something, without really breaking through a glass ceiling. It's not ideal. It's not ideal.
What I guess, like, for me, what I'm thinking when I look at the table is, you guys brought up sort of like Chelsea when they went in Europe and they were able to sort of mount a title challenge, and it makes me think, looking at the table, like either Spurs or Arsenal, one of the two, possibly Man United, but it looks like either Spurs, Arsenal, or Man United are not Europe at all. One of them. So who does that mean? Like the title is going to be headed towards North London next season? Is that just wishful thinking, or?
if it's like
not if it's some other man, for sure not. For sure not. Let's call a spade a spade.
You want to swing some of that crack cocaine my way, dog? It's not in terms of even getting close to City and that. A very good point was made about the teams that have missed out on Europe and mounted like a strong challenge and stuff like that. But the multiplier in that situation, it's not just investment; it's smart investment. And we touched on transfers earlier, but we've got Mourinho, who I can't say has made a savvy transfer move in a while. Obviously, we got Bergwijn, but I've read that Bergwijn wasn't his first choice. We know that Mourinho loves off Willian, which scares me in and of itself. Yeah. We know he loves Nemanja Matic and that. And then if you multiply that, obviously I don't know the financial breakdown of the Ndombele deal, and I think we got a bit lucky with Lo Celso being that we could pay the money a bit later. But I read something in the Athletic the other day. Daniel, when I know it's a mad throwback, but this is just what Levy's like. When Morientes was hot fire back in the day before he went to Liverpool and that. Do you know the deal that Levy offered? Who did he play for at the time? I can't even remember who. Maybe Monaco or something. He offered them £10 million over 10 years. When you have somebody like that, no one's going to take it seriously to try and buy anyone. 10 years.
Oh man,
this guy was the Jack Grealish, 20 million plus Josh Onomah.
You know what I love about Levy? You know what I love about him? He spends the money like it's his money. Like
it's in his wallet, like it's in his personal bank account. Like
it's his.
He does good.
When I hear stuff like that, I just lose it, man. Point, man.
I mean, let's call a spade though.
Another way to look at it is like every time he has opened the wallet, right? It really hasn't worked. I think if we look at the squad we've got now, like some of the best players in the squad, like we didn't really buy them or they weren't our first choices a lot of the time. Even Bergwijn, you guys were just saying, wasn't Mourinho's first choice. It does make me think sometimes, like, is this strategy working like over the long term? I know it's not finding enough good players is like the main problem. Every time we seem to force it and seem to try and spend a bit more money, it seems to backfire. Like Sissoko seems to be another situation where that was like over the long term. I would say Sissoko is more of a positive than a negative. But I mean, in terms of where I would want to spend 30 mil a year, and at the time as well, Sissoko wouldn't be first choice for me.
But if you think about it, he was only ever bought because I think we were trying to get was it Mane or was it Zaha, and in the end we didn't either get any. And then we ended up, and we had to stump up the fee for Sissoko, which, if I'm honest with you, they've had us over a barrel there. Like they know exactly what they know exactly what they're doing.
They got relegated that year as well.
Do you know what I mean? Like Mike actually is no mug, is he? So it's just like maybe what was said earlier on with regards to having a director of football, maybe that would be the way forward. Maybe that's what Mourinho is trying to push for, so that actually there can be that complete autonomy from having, Levi and Enik and everyone have their say or have their input on the transfers. And then maybe we can get some of these small savvy deals or some of these deals done quickly so that we don't have to keep going to and from. There can be all this negotiation period. Because at the moment, I think you're right in saying that whilst Levi's I'm not his biggest fan, I do believe that it has looked that when he's put money up, it just hasn't come to fruition. You can go back to Janssen, go back to Soldado, it's just frustrating. But that's football as well. And that's what I think sometimes he doesn't get. There will always be duds. You can't always have 10 out of 10s whenever you spend money. There was always going to be some players that are not just going to, it's not going to work out. And that's part of football. That's the nature of the game. We're very fortunate that we had a manager in Pochettino who, for 4 or 5 years, was actually able to squeeze absolutely everything out of the players that he had, and the few that he was able to buy. People forget, Ali was 6 million as an 18-year-old. So that was nothing in the scheme of things. People like that, people like Dyer as well. He snuck him in at the end of the summer at the end of the first season that he was managing. These kind of players, he's seen them and he's obviously think, okay, I can improve them, I can improve them. Not to mention the players that he did improve, you know, the Walkers, the Roses. I would say, took Eriksen to a new level, probably improved Kane.
And Bele as well.
Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a funny one, really.
I would be a lot more optimistic if, one, we do get Luis Campos as director of football and he's actually given as much responsibility. Because I can't say I know all his signings, and, you know, he probably has signed a dot or two here and there, like everyone has, like Ferguson has, Wenger has, Pep has. Do you know what I mean? But this is the guy who signed, you know, Fabinho for Monaco before he was big, and Lamar and Bernardo Silva before they all blew. So, yeah, just if I'm going to be optimistic with the whole setup and the lack of peas that we have, if you give me Luis Campos, I think I'll be all right. My blood pressure will be calm.
I definitely think like the club's in a better place, because I think under, like, when Pochettino first started, I mean, I feel like there would be players available or probably around the same amount as Ali, if you get what I mean, like, who are better players. And, like, they'd probably look at Spurs coming in and think, yeah, fuck, like, I'm not going over to that shit. Or, you know what I mean? Like, compared to where we were when Poch started. But now that Poch has put in his work and we're sort of like in another era now, I feel like, yeah, we are in a better place where maybe some of these big names might, I say big names, but I mean big prospects really. But some of these big prospects might look at Spurs coming in and think that it's a positive thing. Same way that Ndombele did, or the same way that Irvine did.
Would you mind? Sorry, Errol. Just what do you think of Marcus Edwards potentially coming back?
I can't see that happening, man.
Marcus Edwards. I read that as well, but it seemed a bit random. Like, why would he come back? Why would he come back? It's only been a year or so. And then would that mean that because he left under Poch, didn't he?
He left under Poch.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, did.
So yeah, which makes me think, like, is there more to this sort of, like, because there was the rumours around that Poch, that playing with Poch at the end of the sort of run was really hard, and he was a different kind of manager. And seeing if somebody like Marcus Edwards did come back, I guess it would put some legs underneath that kind of rumour. I don't know. Like, what do you think? Has Mourinho even given any young players a chance, really?
Mourinho's.
When was the last time he gave any young player a real shot?
Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it just feels like this is pretty much going to be more of the same.
Which is,
I think it says a lot if it's Mourinho that wants Marcus Edwards. Do you know what I mean? I feel like if it was Levy saying bring him back, then I'd be like, okay, we've got an issue. Obviously, it's just rumours at the moment. And there's nothing solid. And I for one, I don't trust Mourinho's youth record whatsoever. I've always said he gave McTominay a debut out of spite just because he hated Pogba. That's the most spiteful thing I've ever witnessed in football. Like, before that, like what he played. I think before that, I genuinely think it was maybe Davide Santon when he was all the way at Inter, just because he had no left backs, he had no choice to play him. But so yeah, his youth record is pretty shit. But if it's him, it's because he has, you know, when we signed him or before we signed Mourinho, he was saying stuff like it might have just been lip service, you know, what he's like, creating a spectacle. Yeah. But he was like, you know, he does need to adapt and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's just it would just be very un-Mourinho like if he himself said he wanted Marcus Edwards back, which I would think is a good thing in a backwards way, but it's extremely. I'm Marcus Edwards FC. I've always been a fan. Maybe I'm just being really optimistic.
I think you're right. Like, it would be a positive change. It would seem like he's taking a different direction. It's not the kind of player that's expecting to buy. Which I guess, like, we're coming towards like the end of the pod now, and I'm just kind of thinking, like, maybe from each of you, like, who would you like to see? Like, what kind of signings would you like to see Mourinho go for? Maybe if each of you kind of like threw out a name or something, or a type of player, even if you haven't got a name.
Fucking hell.
What positions we need to strengthen our
Football Manager.
Honestly,
I was gutted to see that Hakimi went for such a reasonable price.
Don't get me started on that, man.
But it's not for us, innit? That's the thing, man. I just feel like that's the kind of player I was talking about earlier when I said, like, on reputation, I don't know if Hakimi's looking at a Spurs offer and thinking, yeah, I'm coming.
Mm-mm.
Do you know what I mean? That's going to take a
but
hefty
then,
contract and we don't offer those.
I get that point, but then, why was Mourinho brought in? Because we've never been the sort of team to spend mad amount of money. So I assume that he's been brought in, one, to fill the void because obviously Pochettino wasn't doing what he was supposed to be, but two, because of the name, he should be able to have this draw in order to bring some of these players to Tottenham. And
Well, I mean,
I would have
that
hoped
40
someone
mil.
like Hakimi, someone like Hakimi for 40 mil. And I'm telling you, that would be the best 40 million we could spend, because that is a key area that we need improving. Like, we were
Spend
talking
more on
about
Sanchez, so
don't get me started on that.
I just feel like if we're talking about Hakimi coming Spurs, we're talking about smoking a different kind of journey. Yeah, like, I don't know, man. These guys, they're not coming Spurs. Like, he's already started at Real Madrid. Like, who's gonna make that jump? Or Dortmund, shall I say? Who's gonna make that jump? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you man think about
It's
the
a
Coutinho
sideways
shout?
move for me, man.
Called Coutinho, did you say?
Yeah, what do you think of the Coutinho shouts?
Oh my dude,
Well,
we're gonna get them every year. It's
I
the
don't know,
same thing. Like,
it's a funny one, really, because with Coutinho, because like if you're looking at like the eye test and you're watching him, you're like, this is clearly a good technical player. Like he's very good on the ball. He's a goal scorer and he does create a lot. But then it does worry me that like lots of teams don't really want to keep him. Like, fine, at Barcelona, maybe lots of players in his position, but they didn't keep him. But then he went to Bayern, and even then, if he was good enough, they probably would have pushed to try and keep him. So that also makes me think maybe there's something about his game that's probably quite lacking. But on the other hand, I'm looking at Spurs and I'm thinking there's lots of key areas that we need players. And whilst I actually rate Giovanni Lo Celso very highly, I believe we are missing a natural 10. Like, I said it in the Discord as well. Like, when you look at the profile of players that we've had, under Pochettino, players who are very good on the ball, technically very sound, very press resistant, happy to play with the ball at their feet. And you look at the kind of players that we have now, like especially people like who I rate Sissoko, but technically you're looking at him and you're like, So then I'm thinking,
he doesn't want the ball, man.
The kind of player that we would like, someone like Eriksen, someone like Moussa Dembele, these players are very good on the ball, very press resistant. They're very happy to take the ball in high pressure areas. And maybe like Coutinho as like a natural 10 would be someone that we could be able to do that. But I'm guessing to take him on as well, the wages would have to be crazy. And I'm not sure what his age is at the moment to see, have we missed the best Coutinho? Like, what Coutinho would we be getting if he was to sign for Spurs, having left Liverpool, having left Barcelona, having left Bayern? These are all top teams, like.
Coutinho's 28, I think, 27, 28. I think for me, he's always been like a highlight reel kind of player. Like, the more I watch him, the less impressed I am, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always felt with Coutinho, like, if I watch him in small bursts, I feel like, wow, he's amazing. And then the more and more I watch, the more I feel like maybe there's some little nitpicking I could do with his game and things like that. But then again, I feel like that with Bayern. Huh?
I think tactically he restricts you to really, really specialist systems. Like, we saw him play out wide for Liverpool, and we saw them try and make him a centre midfielder. We saw the same sort of vibe at Barcelona as well, and it didn't work. I think we're moving away from these type of players. Like, we're struggling enough trying to find Ali in a productive area of the pitch, in the same way that throughout the course of Eriksen's time with us, he spent more time on the right-hand side of midfield than he did in the centre. So I think we're just going to replicate a lot of the stuff that we struggled with tactically, instead of really just making ourselves balanced and effective.
And if you look at Coutinho from Liverpool, like, arguably people say it was the best thing Liverpool did, because by selling them, they were able to raise the funds to
get Van
Dijk and obviously a bit of money for Alisson. But if you look at the way they play as well, Liverpool's style of play with those midfield three, it now negates the need for someone like Coutinho. So
That's
their
right.
system is set up in a way that actually having a player like Coutinho, it's not really necessary because the front three are very good, and the middle three are actually their workhorses and just as competent. Like sometimes people say, yeah, fine, Liverpool might need a natural 10, but let's be honest, them man have won the league, them man have won Champions League with the same midfield. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like even sometimes like the natural 10 has been left behind in football. Like, all of the successful teams don't have a natural 10 anymore.
Yeah, everyone's got creative inside forwards
That's
or
it. Yeah.
or eights that can do their thing from deep or burst into the box.
And then they
think that's
sort of
what
got this
we're moving
free
towards
workhorse
more.
midfield.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Mourinho even would fancy like an out-and-out 10 like Coutinho, though. I just kind of go back to what he did with Juan Mata when he was the ultimate clutch player for Chelsea, and he was benched because he wasn't doing enough dog work. He wanted him to be more as a number 8. At that time as well. Oh my god!
Absolutely, nah, man. Nah. I'll never even though I will never forgive Mourinho for what he did to Mata twice.
Yeah.
I saw some. I saw like
One.
a tweet with like Mata's stats from one of his seasons. I thought it's the same Mata that couldn't even get a game like under Mourinho. Like
That was bonkers, bro.
He was like
Once he makes his mind up, man,
before,
it's over.
I think what is there. The thing is that I don't know if it's me, but has anyone noticed like a certain player that you think would suit us quite well, or like a player you really, really want that you think we could potentially get? You just don't think Mourinho's going to go for them anyway. That's why it's hard to have these conversations, because at least with Poch, it's like, okay, he likes the attacking vibe. He's not got a lot of P's, but I can genuinely see this potentially happening by hook or crook. Whereas with Mourinho, if I hear that we bid 12 million for Fellaini tomorrow, you think I'm going to be surprised? Oh man. I don't know if it's just I've not heard a Tottenham fan bring this person's name up, and to be fair, they've had a mad ACL injury, but just from watching them play, because they are predominantly off the left, but they do come in and field a lot, and then playing for their national team. I'm doing it like some player review, I don't know why, but coming in, they're coming from the left quite a lot, and they're really proper key player for their national team, and big teams don't seem to be going for them. He's busted his ACL, but I would love to see if we could bag Memphis Depay when he's really fit.
When I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.
What was I going to say though? Yeah, it's just I feel like we're in a good place, but what we need to do is make sure we don't have these good players and then keep filling up the rest of the spaces with just anything we can find, and then worrying about why do we never have that team that can make the next step. I think that's where we've got to try and get away from.
Yeah,
I mean, guys, I'm looking at the clock now, and that's pretty much like we've done an hour, you know. Time flies real quick, but we haven't even touched. I want you to quickly get an opinion from you guys on the next fixture. What do you guys think?
Who we got?
Based on their recent form,
we got Sheffield United away. So.
Yeah. So I guess right now they. I was going to say they're not really informed as opposed to like how. Yeah.
They look good second half against Arsenal though. They were peppering them.
Yeah.
Arsenal.
They were peppering them.
It's Arsenal though.
It is
Arsenal. It's a funny one really, because generally away from home, this season we've been kind of up and down, to be honest with you. I think 3 wins all season away from home.
Hey,
which has been like crazy considering the kind of team that we have. But Sheffield United away, based on like the way they've been playing, based on like their form, like there's no reason why we shouldn't have a majority of the ball like we did against West Ham. But again, these sort of teams, they know exactly what's coming when teams like Spurs are coming to play them. They know that they're probably not going to have the ball as much. They know that they're going to have to probably sit in like a little bit of a deep block. So it's just about whether we've got enough to break them down. Because I was like, the West Ham game was frustrating, man, because the first half, like, we had a lot of the ball and we moved it, but very few of those passes ended up breaking the midfield or the defensive line. And it's often, you often find that, like, and I keep mentioning this guy, but Dembele, like, he's the sort of guy that he has the ability to basically beat one guy, and by beating one guy,
the space
breaking
open.
the line, it opens up the space for someone else. And that's what I think sometimes we really miss. And it's crazy because if you look at Ndombele, that's what his game is about. That's literally what the guy is good at doing. If you watch all of his passes, he genuinely looks to try and break the lines. So I think once we try and work that angle against teams like Sheffield United, and we've got other games, I think Sheffield United, Bournemouth, Newcastle, it's going to be like that. It's going to be difficult to break these teams down. But I think with patience, why not? Why not?
I really
Actually,
hope we do take I really hope we do take the proactive approach to play Sheffield United as well. So I feel like if we do try and sit there and invite pressure on, they're actually that good as a cohesive unit. They may actually be able to penetrate us.
Yeah.
Because they are very good and very well drilled. If we can take the initiative, we should be able to win.
Yeah. I think the last fixture was a draw. I'm trying to remember if it was score draw or not. I think they scored. I think we scored and then they equalised, like the same kind of thing. Like you're saying, after we scored, they kind of started to pressure us instead.
Is it Sheffield United?
United, yeah. I think it was under Mourinho as well,
we
right?
were awful at home, man. It was at home, yeah.
Wasn't that Poch's last game?
Yeah, we scored. Then they scored immediately.
Last game. Yes, yeah.
We scored and they scored immediately, and then they had a goal disallowed, which probably should have been.
Yeah, I think the disallowed one was first, and then they equalised.
Oh yeah. Oh,
we were so much of the ball that day, and we only had 4 shots on target.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that was and then we played West Ham the next game. Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah. Okay, so we've got basically the reverse order of the fixtures now.
Reverse fortune.
Alright, guys. So, any score predictions for next game, or? And I think we could probably wrap it up there.
I'm
got 1-0 Spurs.
I've got 1-0.
I got 2-1.
I want to be. I'm the most pessimistic person going, but you know, I'm part of the pod now. I'm with the boys, so I'm going to say 1-0 Spurs.
I'm going to stick my neck out. I'm going to stick my neck out and say 3-1 Spurs.
Hey, your neck's fuck. Ostrich comes.
Must be having a giraffe.
two from Kane, 1 from Delhi.
Oh, that'd be a dream. Yeah, I'd say 2-1. 2-1.
Yeah, I think it's an easy Spurs win, man. I don't know. We'd have to do something spectacular, I think, to lose that game. Shouldn't lose it, but yeah,
we're very
Spurs we're talking about. So, see you next time, lads.
Nice one, boys. Yes.
In a bit.
Nice,
in a bit.
Thanks.
When I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.